Okay, and we're live, or not live, but at least recording. We'll be live later. So thank you everyone for joining the first technical call for 2022. So happy New Year, everyone. And let's go for agenda today. So actually, we had the first community call last week.
And sorry to interrupt. If you want to share the notes.
Yeah. Wait, I was just searching here on my browser. So there you go. Everyone can see the notes, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that one of the, and I think we should probably start with this one. So one of the, this is not the first call of the year. So we had a community call last week, and one of the topics that came up on that call was about having a little chat about the technical goals that we defined for 2021, and which ones we were able to achieve and which ones we haven't, and try to come up with a little bit of a retrospective over there. Is that okay with everyone if we go in this route first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So following the some of the links over here, I'm not sure if all the technical goals are here. I mean, there are some that are closes. So probably let's just list all of them. All right. So probably the ones that we're gonna look first are the ones that are open, right? So let's see. Let's go with the numbers that are here. Apparently, those are actually numbers. So what we have over here is the MicroProfile open tracing. Even though this is not closed, I believe that we were able to do a lot of progress over here. We were able to at least try to move forward the open telemetry spec. Even yesterday, I believe Emily opened up like a proposal for it. But we had some progress on coming up with adoption rules on the open telemetry, but we never really defined how to deprecate stuff. So that's something that we discussed multiple times, not only for open tracing overall, or actually it's not only for open tracing, but overall for the entire platform, and that's something that needs to happen, right? So I'm guessing that this one over here is kind of like half done. On the open telemetry, even though it's not released or adopted completely, it's like on a good track to move forward, but we never really decided on how to deprecate stuff.
Yeah, so I think probably that will be a good kind of thing for the July release. Maybe it's like if we release open telemetry in a 1Q as a standalone, and then in the July umbrella release, and then we could put open telemetry in the umbrella release and then remove the open tracing from there. So basically directed like remove the MicroProfile open tracing from the platform release and then put the MicroProfile open telemetry in the platform release.
So what are you suggesting to on the next major version, remove one and add the other one?
Yeah, so basically in July major version, we direct remove the open tracing and then put the open telemetry in.
Well, I'm fine with that, but I'm pretty sure that that was proposed multiple times, and at the time, as far as I remember, some people were not comfortable with that because they still wanted, they didn't want to get rid of open tracing completely. They wanted to go for a deprecation period, right? So when, as far as I understand, what you're suggesting is if you remove open tracing, then people will have to basically move directly to open telemetry, and there is no adaptation period. I'm fine with that, right? I'm just saying
think-
that's not what I heard over the last year. And I
Yeah.
was one of the main persons that I was pushing to break stuff, right? So
Yeah, I think the pushback from last year is there was no alternative. If we get open telemetry directly put in the place currently open tracing in, I think that's good enough. So basically, it's everything will continue to work.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I'm with you. It's allowed to break things, but then there need to be a replacement. The thing we can be thinking of in this case is if we keep MicroProfile open tracing living in a deprecate state using the shim in the background and not the implementation of open tracing that is used now. So consumers of these APIs have a chance to migrate smoothly, but that's not a requirement if there is another tracing spec available, I think. But we can do that in that case. That would require a little bit of extra work. And then we should mark open tracing as deprecated as soon as possible, so everybody is prepared. We can do that in the next release if there is one, or we do it with a major release in the summer.
So along those lines, I was just kind of curious, just wondering if could you move open tracing to the standalone and then introduce open telemetry as one of the the core APIs, or would that be too confusing? And then there's also the issue of metrics and micrometer. And if you guys were thinking about doing that this year or in a 7.0 release.
That's a separate conversation, Michael. For the I went to the metrics, MicroProfile metrics call today. I think the group probably is going to make a very seamless thing. I mean, the continue support the current API. So adopting micrometer is kind of the implementation details. That's kind of one of the suggestion. So we have to wait for the team to make a decision. I think once that decision be made, that can be looked at separately.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that dawned on me last week, and I didn't get a chance to chime in, is if you wanted to do an incremental release like a 5.1, what if GraphQL, if it's ready for prime time to be moved to core, and from the standalone, if that's a possibility.
I think for that, we also discussed is one of the goals is kind of look at the standalone releases. So that would be a good proposed in the July release, directly add the GraphQL to the platform release.
Okay.
I think it's also a two-step process. If you are going to mark one of the specifications as deprecated, what does it mean? But also, what does it mean for the implementers next to what does it mean for the end users? Because implementers can possibly adopt both OpenTelemetry and open tracing in the implementations. Can it be done or not? I don't know, but there can be a grace period from the MicroProfile roadmap, but it doesn't necessarily mean that implementers have to follow that and end users.
So
the fact that
Yeah.
even if we decide to have both open tracing and open telemetry at the platform, there needs to be a decision at the platform level that you either use one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't stop implementers from also implementing or adopting the standalone specification that we have moved from the platform. So that could be a benefit for end users or implementers to fill in the grace period, how they see it. So I think that can help us. Or
I think
just
theoretically you can have two tracing implementations but the automatic instrumentation will delay the runtime of the application because everything is done twice. So the transition way that could be done is using OpenTelemetry implementation at the platform implementation level. And on the API level, there could be an open tracing version which offers the API and use the shim of the open tracing within OpenTelemetry. So there's one implementation to handle it, or the automatic instrumentation need to be done by the new OpenTelemetry tracing implementation. But you still could use in your application the API of the old open tracing implementation.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing. So is it possible to deal with open telemetry and open tracing the same way as MP Metrics decided to deal with micrometer? So we have a specification, right? And we can hide all their kind of second level specification we are trying to expose, right? And we can support it on implementation level, or we can add something to the API to leverage all the new features of OpenTelemetry. It would, first of all, keep the backwards compatibility, and the second thing, smoothly switch to another kind of new version of standard.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's also that's we don't have to build that. That's already part of OpenTelemetry, that shim implementation for tracing, for open tracing.
Oh, nice.
And there's also one shim for metrics.
Yeah, but the shim portion only handles the standard part of open tracing. In the open tracing for MicroProfile, that was extended for a lot of other stuff that's not supported on the shim. Namely the tracer annotation, the way that the tracers are named based on the class name and the method names and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That are
What's
Yeah.
what's the technical detail about what makes it technically difficult to support them both?
It's just effort.
Right. So, you know, I mean, everybody's already got open tracing implementations, and so they would have to write open telemetry implementations. And you know, so
Yeah,
you know, I don't know where's the effort, right? Because you're going to have to write you're going to have to write an open telemetry implementation. So, you know, I'm assuming no one's going to go out and write a new open tracing implementation at this moment. So what is the effort we're talking about? No, the efforts tend just to be maintaining both within an implementation, right? There's you know, security issues at times pop up, right? CVEs pop up. You know, keeping libraries up to date behind the scenes. I mean, there's overhead. How much overhead is it? I don't know, but there's overhead. Yeah, I'm not proposing that we do it long term, but you know, to Dimitri's point and other people have raised, would be great if we could just, you know, sunset one, have it stay there so applications can continue to deploy, give people a period of time, and then completely remove it, you know. So it might be like the next major version. Doesn't even have to be a major version. You know, if it's deprecated, it can be pretty much done at any time because it would still be there. The actual removal would probably have to happen in a major version. But we could deprecate open tracing, add open telemetry, support both for a period of time, and at a major version, yank open tracing.
Okay, but that's a different proposal now from the initial one that Emily proposed, and I believe Jan was backing up as well.
So
Which was have
the
everything in one go.
The difference would be the automatic implementation. You want to keep that for open tracing, or didn't you? You are talking about the active use of the API or the automatic use, like it is done with the REST internally, for example.
Yeah, that's a Go ahead, Dimitri.
Let's get a question. Are we actually going to standardize OpenTelemetry API? Meaning that we're just saying that in your MicroProfile application, just use a jar provided by OpenTelemetry or whatever is there, and this is what we support. Or we are going to have a specification based on that. Basically, the API used by application is a MicroProfile API, and it's somehow on the implementation level, kind of just using OpenTelemetry implementation.
No,
Because,
the proposal in the OpenTelemetry group is to just delegate everything to OpenTelemetry.
This is what I don't like, because this is not our spec. We are just saying that use OpenTelemetry, and it doesn't make any sense to. It's not a specification, right? We just
It is a specification on the Cloud Native Foundation,
but it's not MicroProfile specification.
Right. I kind of have the same thought. I mean, like, aren't there any ways that we could add value with giving people the ability to configure or influence various things with annotations or API
It is
calls?
so the specification itself, or not the specification, but basically the when we were discussing that, so the OpenTelemetry API already has ways for you to configure stuff to call APIs, and basically what we did was to tell how you could, for instance, integrate MicroProfile config to use the OpenTelemetry configuration to influence the OpenTelemetry behavior, or to put hook points with CDI on how to inject stuff coming from OpenTelemetry. So you'll see everything is still integrated on the platform. It's just that we don't see any value of you having to duplicate APIs that are already available on OpenTelemetry side.
Okay, so I was going to ask that question: is like, are the APIs Java APIs, or are they just configuration files?
No, they're Java APIs.
Okay.
But
So
these APIs are out of our control, right? We can't predict what these OpenTelemetry folks can do, right? We are blindly relying on that. And
No, we're not blindly relying on that. So me, Emily, and other folks from MicroProfile have been attending the OpenTelemetry calls from the Java side, and we are basically influenced as well what they're doing, and we're just there as a consumer, like all other people that are there from Datadog, New Relic, Splunk, and multiple cloud providers. I think that's a way better collaboration than we just come over here and just start doing our thing, instead of being over there with everyone else and try to collaborate on one thing altogether. Why? I mean, they already defined an interface for span and tracer. Are we going to duplicate the same thing just to have like a different namespace for span and tracer?
I don't know.
I think the interoperability would be much greater if we use the original API. And of course, we have a dependency to a specific version of that specification, that external specification. So if something changes there, we will update by intention with the new version of our covering of that specification within MicroProfile.
Question.
So there's control.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
go ahead, Emily, and then I'll talk.
Sorry. So it's kind of back to the open tracing. Actually, open tracing itself hasn't got much API either. So the other thing is open tracing exposed the tracer, so which is kind of pretty much dead because the open tracing is going to be discontinued. So that's why I don't think there's much point to maintain the MicroProfile open tracing, which is MicroProfile metrics is in a different bucket, because they like there's a different metrics providers and etc., and they are all kind of in active development. But for open tracing, I do not see the much need to maintain MicroProfile open tracing. And as Roberta put, and we checked out the kind of OpenTelemetry APIs, and they are pretty decent. And I think in this way, we influence the upstream is pretty neat, and we only need to worry about integration, make it work better in the cloud native application development.
And by the way, I mean, there are concerns, and I understand them about, we are locking to the API, but I mean, they're probably even more strict on making changes that we actually think, right? Because the OpenTelemetry specification is not only for Java. They have APIs for Rust, .NET, JavaScript, Java, of course, and a couple of other languages, right? So imagine the trouble that we usually go through when you have to change Java API. Now imagine the trouble that they have to go through when they change something on the spec, which has influence on 7 or 8 implementations on across different languages, right? So it's not, when I'm being involved, when I start to involve to OpenTelemetry and see what they're doing, I don't think they're doing something that we have to worry about. They're going to break everyone and we don't have any control. I mean, I think that us thinking, I think it's not really a bad thing for us not having control. I mean, we can influence what they're doing if we want. It's just joining their conversations and their community. And I think that's really, there's not really a big issue or a big risk of them just breaking everything and having everyone unhappy, because that's not going to affect only Java. It's going to affect like all languages that are using OpenTelemetry, which is basically everyone.
David?
Yeah. So the question that I was going to ask are, are there like automatic things that happen that a developer might want to, be able to say, I want this to be happening or not at the API level, and specifically referring to, there's an API like we used the OMG transaction APIs for some of Java EE, for example, but there was still like the EGB API for making an interceptor bind, what is essentially, a start stop call automatically. So undercovers the container would call, start stop or whatever, or do the distributed transaction work. But there was like an API that would, take care of bindings to EJB specifically, right? So, are there are there things that we may want to expose to people that I don't want, just because something can happen automatically doesn't necessarily mean if I throw the OpenTelemetry API in my JVM and start my implementation, how is it magically going to know what method calls to monitor, right?
Yeah,
there has to be some kind of binding.
Exactly. So,
and aren't those annotations that we could create that would result in a package that could give us some clue that the application wants to use OpenTelemetry, and then we can just shut off? Let me finish. Then we could just use these annotations as a way to know this application wants to use. We could write a rule even, like if you start using OpenTelemetry API classes and bindings, we're going to shut off open tracing.
Okay, to answer the question, when we wrote the proposal for how OpenTelemetry should be used in MicroProfile, we also defined how these bindings should work. So for instance, we'll say everything that is JAX-RS will be automatically traced, right? And for instance, OpenTelemetry already provides annotations that you can use or reuse, right? They have, for instance, this annotation called with span, which will say as well on the proposal adoption, it can be used as a CDI annotation for its CDI based beans, and you can place them on methods to trace those methods with CDI, right? So we can probably do like a prototype call where I can show you. I have implemented like a prototype with all of their APIs, and I have OpenTelemetry working with JAX-RS, doing automatic tracing, have CDI integration with that with span annotation, and basically doing open tracing method calls on CDI beans. I have MicroProfile configured with their configuration, and I'm able to set any configuration using our own traditional configuration mechanisms with system properties, MicroProfile configure properties, and so on and so forth. And I have zero need to actually add any new API until now. And then I have everything working out of the box.
Now, that's a key point now, right? But
Sure,
you're happy
but
with it now. But what happens if OpenTelemetry goes some weird direction, right? And we already based on that.
well, I mean,
Does it mean that
Dimitri,
if someone else better comes, right? So having the spec means that we can kind of, we are flexible. It's on our control. We can release it. We can change it any way we want. But relying on something else, this is not our specification. It's different process. Different people are working there. You can't predict where it goes. For now, it's fine. Tomorrow it goes, they won't like it, right?
well, Dimitri,
what we will do then?
Well, Dimitri, I thought that you were all about collaboration, right? And I've been collaborating with the OpenTelemetry folks. I found a couple of issues. I talked to them. I opened pull requests for their stuff. We were able to discuss them. They accepted my pull request. I mean, it's community, it's collaboration. I don't see why you see such a big deal of collaborating with the OpenTelemetry specification. It's not something being done by like these folks under the bridge or something. It's a cloud native foundation project, so it has some merits on that, right?
Of course, but it's okay, David.
It was
No,
John.
it's John. Yeah, sorry. I was
John.
just gonna. I raised my hand because I'm asking myself this question, and this actually is a question, not a statement. Should we have this conversation here, or should we have this conversation in the Open Telemetry MicroProfile meeting call? Because we were planning on kind of going through a lot of these, and we're on this one issue. So I just thought I would bring this up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, but the point is, I understand, John. I was thinking the exact same thing, but I think it is important to have this conversation right now because we have been having this discussion on the OpenTelemetry call for like 3 or 4 months already, right?
Mm.
And the people on that call, usually me, Bruno, Emily, Jan, a couple of other folks, decided into this direction, right? And now we're coming over here and we're saying what we decided, and then all other people, rightly so, they're raising concerns. We're trying to answer those concerns, but we have to figure out something over here. We either trust the decision of the group, or we make another validation, which is what we're doing right now, and we are explaining why we make that decision to other
Yeah,
folks,
I think
right?
that is very important to discuss this here. I added the topics we want to discuss on the 14th of December last year. When you scroll up a little bit, the general question from my perspective is, do we allow the intended use of an external namespace of annotations within a standard instead of writing or replicating the stuff like it is done in open tracing, for example? Yeah, is that generally allowed to be to create a spec and add it to the platform finally with that usage, like we discuss it now? Another example would be the usage of OSGI, for example. There are 2 other points. I added them already above. We also want to use a monorepo design, because OpenTelemetry has 4 parts, tracing, metrics, and logging. Is that allowed? And that's a general discussion. In OpenTelemetry, we would like to do it like that. But if there are any concerns, then they need to be discussed here and at best today. And the third one was joining these groups or the conversation between metrics and tracing. We already covered that, I think.
Yeah, and by the way, let's just add something else, right? So the proposal for what we're discussing over here was sent to the mailing list with a pull request with all the things that were decided, right? So people were free to go to the pull request comment or reply to the mail, whatever. And yeah, I mean, we got the feedback that we got and we move it into that direction, right? So I think that is also unfair for now people starting to raise concerns where they have more than enough time to raise those concerns earlier and they didn't do it, right? But I'm more than happy to answer any concern that it might show up.
Yeah, and to be a little bit specific, I think OpenTelemetry is establishing an industry standard, especially on the tool implementer side. That's a common standard, and a lot of libraries will tend to use it. And packing something around it, we have to maintain then. Is not adding value, is more like preventing the usage of OpenTelemetry in the intended way. You want to configure it that you can get that detail as easy as possible. We have to think about how to do that auto instrumentation for REST APIs, for example. The traces then generated automatically and stuff like that. That's our part, but we should not rewrite the usage. And it's a little bit like the same like Java SE. We don't rewrite every method of Java SE to decouple it. That makes no sense from my perspective. It adds only complexity.
Yeah, I think is like I see it as add extra boilerplate. The other thing is our mission for MicroProfile is innovate fast, fail fast, innovate fast. So basically, you use the OpenTelemetry if it changes, and then we just keep changes. So which is I see is the difference between the Jakarta and the MicroProfile. So this is I see MicroProfile just stand on the giant shoulder. So shoulder of the giant. So we can like in this way we borrow others and then we innovate fast. So because we based on the standard, so I do not see this is a bigger problem.
So I had a quick comment in that we're still having so I don't have a moral problem with having us include an API like Open Telemetry as a required API, even though it's in a different namespace. I don't think that's something we want to do like willy-nilly, right? But and certainly if someone proposed we would have dependencies on OSGI, I would have a big problem with that because we have no intentions of putting OSGI in our implementation ever. I would just wanted to kind of present an option that would allow us to potentially support both. I mean, in MicroProfile JWT, you enable that by adding a specific annotation at a location in your application. And then that basically turns on MicroProfile JWTs. That way it doesn't conflict if you're already, if you've already written an app that, leverages JWTs, but you're not using the MicroProfile JWT API, you don't have to worry about it because, it doesn't get enabled until you add this specific annotation to your app. When you do, then we're going to assume we own that responsibility and you better not get in our way. And that could provide we could potentially copy that technique. It would involve us creating one annotation, But basically, it's like, you add the specific annotation to your JAX-RS application class, and then there you go. Now you're using MicroProfile JWT. So we could say that, OpenTelemetry is not enabled automatically by default. You have to add at least this one annotation to your app, and then now it's enabled by default. But it could provide us some way to gracefully transition to it. And it also might allow people to use OpenTelemetry how they want. Maybe they don't want to use any automagic stuff that we create. Maybe they just want to use the API directly. Maybe they're already using the API. We have to consider that case as well.
So David, is MicroProfile open tracing, it's kind of the behaves.
OpenTelemetry, I meant to say.
To the OpenTelemetry, MicroProfile OpenTelemetry. Basically, in the MicroProfile open tracing is by default, all the JAX-RS automatically traced. So it's I think that's the implementation details when you say the switch. For example, OpenLiberty, you switch on that feature, you kind of open, if you specify OpenTelemetry feature, it's your JAX-RS endpoint automatically, being traced and etc. I think that's the implementation details for the.
Well, it could. It is perhaps now for open tracing, but I'm simply saying that we didn't take that path with MicroProfile JWT. There is a portable switch to turn it on, and it's an annotation. We could create a portable switch to turn this on, and that wouldn't just solve our issue with dealing with open tracing, but it could also solve the situation where somebody may already be using OpenTelemetry APIs in their existing MicroProfile application.
So
I think we should wrap the OpenTelemetry issue for now. My proposal is, as we discussed like a few months ago, that every new stuff should go on the sandbox. So I put here the link on the adoption proposal for OpenTelemetry that's sitting on the sandbox. So I advise the folks that are not aware of this one, please go here, read the document. It's not really that big. It just defines how OpenTelemetry should be adopted on a MicroProfile environment. And please raise any concerns either on GitHub or the mailing list, and we'll try to figure them out.
Yeah, I just wanted to make I could take my hand down. Make the statement that we should, we started this out pulling up a GitHub issue. There hasn't been any updates on that GitHub issue. We should probably.
I just had one. No. So I added this
cool.
one, which links the OpenTelemetry adoption proposal, which links to the document that I was just saying.
Whatever the minutes we come up with in this thing, we should probably just throw them in there.
Yeah, and also
not all the minutes, just the ones that relate to this, right?
Yeah. So also there's created a plan review and hopefully to get some more feedback for the plan review for the OpenTelemetry.
Yeah, I probably think that the plan review should stay on hold right now because there are doubts on the proposal that we have for the adoption. So clearly it was not, some people will probably like to review it better. So please feel free to review and comment, and we'll come back to this in the next technical call. And if there are still concerns, then we'll try to figure out something.
You can draft a plan review. We just don't have to put it up for vote, right? But it could be a good vehicle for getting some comments and feedback.
Yeah,
have it written down.
Yeah, it's already been written down. That's what I'm asking Roberto to add a link to that plan review.
Okay, I'll add it. I'll add when we move to the next topic.
Yeah, all the things will be in the one place.
And how we are going to deal with TCKs?
That's a good question.
The TCK is something that we're talking with the OpenTelemetry community, right? Because they have the exact same need as us, right? So they want to be able to test whatever implementation they come up with on their APIs. So most likely what we're trying to come up with is to have a testing or TCK-like thing on the OpenTelemetry project that everyone can use as an implementation. Exactly the same thing as we do right here.
Are they going to support bindings to JAX-RS things and stuff like that?
I think
No.
for that part. I
No,
think
no, because I mean, in this particular case, and it might be completely specific, but I mean that's something that we should definitely talk with them. That's what I'm trying to do as well. Is on the OpenTelemetry side, we're only interested in basically collecting data that is traced from an application. It doesn't really matter where it was collected. Basically, it's just you just get some input and you get output, right? So
Let me rephrase my question. It's one thing to say that the library and the implementation are there, and it's another thing to say that this MicroProfile specific object has these capabilities when the OpenTelemetry is present. You know, there's an integration test, right? You know, so
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, if we're saying that you should expect your JAX-RS thing to be monitored, we obviously have to write a test that has a JAX-RS object.
sure,
You know,
exactly,
class,
but nothing prevents having a basic TCK-like on their side, which tests their API and other things, and then we can add our own TCK for integration stuff like you're mentioning.
Sure.
Nothing
Yeah. Okay. That's
preventing-
great. I was so far I'd only heard you talking about their tests, and I just wanted to make sure
sure.
we didn't lose sight of the fact we probably need our own integration tests.
And I mean, and by the way, to make it clear, nothing that we propose here prevent us to enhance the API if we want in the future. If we want to have some MicroProfile specific API for OpenTelemetry, we can certainly add it, right?
That wasn't going there. I was just simply talking about if we're going to say in the context of MicroProfile, these things automatically happen, these things automatically happen, these things automatically happen. There may not be an API, but we still would need to write tests to verify
Sure.
that they do automatically happen.
Sure. In that case, that TCK portion will be on our side.
Sure.
Yeah, so in the TCK is we have the categories, the CTI integration and also cover JAX-RS integration, exactly the same as the current MicroProfile open tracing does.
Okay,
I still think that if we're going to have things that automatically happen, we probably should give people a way to shut them off. You know, so if there are going to be automatic functionality that kicks in, we do need the ability for people to say, I don't want this to happen. It's kind of one of the, it's kind of one of those things we did in EJB. EJB was like, you have a bean, of course you want transactions, of course you want this, of course you want that. We loaded up everything, every feature, and you never had to use a single annotation to make these things happen. You didn't have to do anything. It was all automatically there. And people didn't really, first of all, I think that can be bad. It certainly became bad in the case of EJB. No one could keep track of the automatic things that were happening. So they just started using other libraries instead.
yeah.
But there weren't always ways to shut them off. That was a trick.
So
OpenTelemetry already has ways to shut things off. You can shut up all the OpenTelemetry off, right? Because
I mean, like at a granular level, like for this method or that REST
no,
call.
well, at the granular level you can as well.
right,
Okay.
by default, this should be enabled, and then I think we can provide a configuration to switch some things off. That's a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's common, like in EJB, right? Okay, transaction starting and stopping is automatically enabled, and whether you know what transactions are getting started for you and stopped for you. But if you don't want that for a particular being, you use the annotation. Use a specific annotation. If you don't want that for a specific method, you use an annotation at the method level. So like I said, I don't know what the what the capabilities are of the existing open tracing API. I would just say that if there are any situations where we're kind of co-opting their API in a way that isn't defined by them, that might be something we should think twice about. If they do have, say, an annotation that can be placed on a method, and they're very clear that, okay, people who write implementations are allowed to use this as a binding method for methods to be used in this way, that's great. But if their spec doesn't currently say that, and we start using that annotation in a specific way, like, okay, if you put their annotation on our JAX-RS object, and it works like this now, because that's what we've defined, there is some chance that could conflict with a future usage of that annotation. We could, like, if we defined this way of putting these annotations on JAX-RS methods, but there is no such concept in the OpenTelemetry spec, and later they add that, and it somehow conflicts with what we previously added, and they say, well, we don't care, you shouldn't have used it like that, it's not your annotation, we're taking everyone's feedback and we're going this direction. We might be in a conflict situation. So we do have to be mindful of that. Just because we can pull it off now doesn't mean that it's necessarily good.
Yeah, notice, David. I think in the MicroProfile open tracing, the annotation add traced and then bracket enable equals false, exactly that. We can consider that. I think we had enough discussion on the open tracing now.
Yeah, I'm not
Got
sure
8
if
minutes
we have-
left.
Yeah.
Okay. As an add-on to the discussion earlier this day within the Jakarta EE, therefore, it's very important to use the right namespace for your specification. And if we want to overwrite something of OpenTelemetry, then of course, as already said, we could use the IO MicroProfile namespace instead of the OTel namespace. And then we are free to deviate if necessary, or add things without generating a conflict in the future.
Okay, so Emily, do you want us to give us an update on metrics for the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, so metrics team had a great call today, and they discussed about I think it's a lot of people have a few people have preference about maintain the current MicroProfile API. So make micrometer as an implementation details. And then some implementation can decide whether they want to expose the micrometer API. But in this way, basically, it's the MicroProfile metrics API continue to work without much problem. So it's and then in this way, some input directly still use like a job wizard, and some other implementation use the micrometer. I think they are trying to gather consensus among the different players and to move forward with the more prototype. I think Jonathan from Tommy Tribe did a good prototype and directly use a micrometer, the micrometer as the implementation, and surfaced under the MicroProfile metrics. It seems workable. So no definite direction has been made, but I think sounds like they could wrap the micrometer as implementation details. That's pretty much about metrics.
Any comment on that, or any other comment on that? Well, I mean, do you want to update the issue with? Well, it seems on the metric side is a little bit more back schedule. I mean, it's not. It's still there's a lot of work to be done there. Not as speed up as OpenTelemetry.
Yeah.
So it may require some additional work.
Yes. But I think they hopefully they reach the conclusion, or they will reach a conclusion soon. Once they reach a conclusion, I will ask them to update update this GitHub issue.
Yeah, to add a little bit, there's also a part of OpenTelemetry that covers metrics, and therefore the group decided to communicate to each other to let the projects coexist or maybe join in the future.
I think that will be a future statement at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so still have a few minutes left. So on the spec converter side, that was something that I did propose for last year. Not this one, but doesn't really matter. We never really got this going. But that's my fault on that regard, because I was never able to push this forward. But I can try to revive this. I do have a prototype of something working on at the implementation level for small RAI, so I can try to push that as an abstract API to the sandbox and then take it from there. So yeah, that was my fault. We were not able to do anything on the converter side for 2021, but I'll try to do something on the first quarter for 2022 at least.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
And then let's see if we still have time for some more.
I think we have 2 more minutes. What about the the other one? Do we want to close it, or we want to do anything with it? The gRPC one.
Okay.
No.
The MicroProfile Jakarta alignment, that was done, so that was something that we're able
Yeah.
to accomplish at least. Yeah, the next one open is the gRPC stuff. And yeah, I mean, if Jakarta is going to take this, then I think there is no point in us doing this here.
Yeah, I agree. I think we don't. Yeah. Otherwise, we see we are competing.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, we should not split our forces, and they have to coexist at the end. And therefore, if there already is a team that making progress within Jakarta, and there are good reasons technically to do it within Jakarta, maybe not from the organizational level, but from the technical dependencies level, yeah, then let's do it there.
Yeah, so we can close this one. The other thing is that I think as we move forward, we really need to figure out where do we want to innovate so that we can occupy different space. And then we just want to make sure Jakarta plus MicroProfile can cover the huge space.
Okay, so we are at the hour. So let's leave it here. So I'm sorry that a lot of the call was about open telemetry and open tracing, but I also think that was an important conversation for other people to get up to speed on things on that space. Anyway, thank you so much for joining today, and see each other either next week or in a couple of weeks.
Great. Hey, Roberta, can you put them each chunk of minutes on these particular issues? I see you made, you know, a few character and 5-word comments, but you know, whatever discussion we had should be.
Yeah,
checked in there somehow.
I was planning to do that. I was just,
After is fine. Just
yeah.
you know, we should get better because if we do update these issues that we file at the end of the year, our retrospective is right there at the thread. So
Yeah, I'll do it. Just want to put like a more
polished perspective on it.
yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, after this, maybe is we can have a, thread conversation regarding MicroProfile open telemetry. So we can continue discussion on the Google group. Also, can socialize the plan review so that people can, send any comments and etc. before the voting, etc. I will send a note on the Google group to start with to see are there any feedback.
Okay, so
Thank you, Roberto.
yeah,
Great.
thank you very much for joining, and see each other in a couple of weeks. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.